Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain. I'm Rachel. I've got coffee, I've got books. I don't have rain, but that's okay. I could always put like rain background sounds in my videos, but I just feel like that's cheating. I really do enjoy recording on days when it's raining, but sadly, it looked like rain for a while, it just didn't do it. But we're talking about The Gods Time Forgot by Kelsie, Sheridan, Gonzalez. Now this book is expected April 8th of 2025, and honestly, I think it came out differently than I thought it was going to, but we're going to dive into the summary and then we'll get into my thoughts. So, Irish mythology collides with the Golden Age New York in the sweeping debut, enemies to lovers historical romantasy, perfect for fans of Outlander and A Fate Inked in Blood. Manhattan, 1870. Rua knows only two things: her name and that she has no memories. So when the wealthy Harrington family mistakes Rua for their missing daughter Emma, Rua goes along with a charade, hoping for answers about who she really is. As she tries to blend into society she doesn't remember, she's drawn to a firmly off-limits Lord Donneray. I think that's right. I'm trying to remember because I had the audiobook and I'm trying to remember how they said it, but I know we called him Finn a lot. A newcomer to Manhattan society who is somehow familiar to Rua. Finn is new to this side of the Atlantic and knows that the best way to fit in as Lord of Donneray is to make friends in high places and play by the rules of society. He knows he shouldn't become involved with the mysterious, recently missing debutante, but he's intrigued by Emma Harrington, and Finn has an uncanny feeling this isn't the first time they've met. With societal pressures mounting on both sides, Rua is determined to discover the truth about the missing Harrington daughter and her own past. But when her memories begin to return, they're of a world far stranger than New York and traced in dark magic. As ancient secrets unfurl in Rua's memory, Rua and Finn are forced to uncover the mystery of their past and try to save their future in this gritty and glittering romantasy. Nothing and no one is as they seem. So, it is considered romantasy. It says historical fiction, which I guess Gilded Age New York, but I don't know. I think that's bit of a stretch. Historical fantasy is much more, I guess, fitting for that, and that's also listed. It's about 320 pages in paperback. I want to say the audiobook was about 15 hours. It could have been a little bit less. It could have been like closer to 14, but I did have the audiobook, and so I was able to listen to that while doing a lot of my chores, getting some workouts in, and that sort of thing. Sometimes I just zone out and let that book whisk my mind away to whatever land we are adventuring in. So this time it was kind of 1870 New York. And so it seems to be the era in New York where society is a huge sort of thing. So people are very much all about their prim and proper sort of status. And Emma's mom, Flossie, and I think her name is Florence, but Rua is constantly calling her Flossie, is very much a go-getter in society. They are what I guess a family would call new money. They are not of like the lineage of like the older money, so to speak, and so they haven't really been established in society. The bad thing is and go ahead, first and foremost, let me just go ahead and say I'm not the biggest fan of the trope of waking up with no memories. That is something that's fairly common, but I think when that happened at the beginning of this book, I was kind of like, oh no, because the whole waking up with no memories thing is, I think it's been done. There's got to be a little bit of a different way to do it. I think if we had done that a little bit differently, my interest in this book wouldn't have ebbed and flowed. I do give it 4 stars. I probably give it like a 3.5 to a 3.75, but I will, for my review, round it up to 4 on Goodreads. So I'm going ahead and like being honest with you all, because not only did I expect a little bit more supernatural, we didn't get to a lot of that until like the second half of the book. The first half of the book is very much about society and fitting in and the establishing the romance and that sort of thing, and we don't hardly get any exposure to Rua and where she comes from within Emma's body. And so that was kind of how I perceived it, is that like when, especially when I first picked it up, is we learn that Emma she's got a maid, and they're on pretty good terms. But Emma has crawled into this hole in the ground that they have referred to as the Hellmouth, and disappeared for about a day. And this was what Emma doesn't remember, or Rua doesn't remember. And then she crawls back out. Well, something happens during that time, and when Rua comes out, or persona inside Emma's body, like it's kind of a blank slate for us as the reader, but also for Rua as a kind of a character, because it seems as though Emma had not done well kind of like following societal norms herself. She was kicked out of boarding school. Apparently she was very on thin ice with her mom, and now Rua comes along and she's like, my name's not Emma, it's Rua. So now they're really thinking this girl has lost her marbles. She's gone into the woods. She's supposed to be some sort of high society debutante with her family coming into money, and now she's crawling around in the woods, getting expelled from her boarding school, and like, you know, not following societal norms. So her mother is absolutely livid, because like I said, her mother is just such a go-getter. I wish I could have stayed more immersed in this story. I think I needed more magic towards the beginning, where all I was getting was like Emma or Rua, and that's the such frustrating part, because we don't really at the beginning kind of know anything about kind of what's going on, except for Rua just being adamant that her name is Rua. But I don't know. It's got his fantastical elements, but we didn't do enough to delve into these magical bits that could have been woven through this book in a better way, in my personal opinion. I think I really liked Finn. I think you could see that character, he was new money as well, and he had made a land deal with somebody, bought some land for a little bit cheaper, and turned around and sold it to somebody who wanted to buy it, who wanted to invest in it. And so now he's kind of coming up in society as well. So I did like his personality a little bit more, although he's a little cold-hearted. He's trying to fit into society, but he's kind of like a man alone sort of thing. So he's just trying to he's trying to marry well, so that way he can kind of be part of this upper crust. He's worked really hard for it and sacrificed a lot. And so now he's trying to kind of stay that way, kind of keep that status. But then he runs into Rua, and there's something about her. He finds her in the Central Park kind of menagerie / I would call it the Central Park Zoo area. And he thinks she is like a prostitute in this area. But then she turns around and he's like stunned by how like beautiful she is. So he's like, oh, my bad. And it's very interesting because Rua does not recognize the person who's supposed to be Emma's father at first. So that's a whole thing. There's a lot of questions. Like I'm not surprised that they were trying to institutionalize Rua. As terrible as that sounds, if the daughter was already acting fairly out of sorts, and now Rua is being incredibly adamant about like that she's not Emma, that she doesn't recognize her father. She's got different tastes of what she likes to eat. All of these sorts of things. She carries herself differently. That it's not looking in her favor. So I will say it was pretty slow pacing through the beginning. I did mention that I didn't feel like we made just a ton of progress in probably the first 50% of the book, in my personal thought. So it was kind of slow. That's where I wanted more, maybe magical elements, supernatural elements. Give me some more backstory. Give me a little bit more intrigue with regards to this title of The Gods Time Forgot. Um, because I think it wraps up well. It just, either it could have been shorter and we could have gotten there faster, or we could have taken that chunk that was towards the end that was incredibly intriguing and captivating and maybe spread it out a little bit more through the beginning to really draw the reader in. Now, this book, I want to say, was like a recommendation from NetGalley for me to read. It might have been based on what I've read and requested in the past. So I'm not saying I'm mad at this book in any way, or I wouldn't come on here and give my thoughts on it. But I think being a debut novel and being kind of, I guess I could say that the author could be new at this. I mean, I don't know what they've written in the past to really know how much they've delved into novel writing. And I, too, though have aspirations of writing several novels, and I want to say like 12, I think I have like 12 outlined, have not been able to get past some writer's block that has been plaguing me for a little bit of time. One day they will come out of my head, but I think either we make it a romance novel and we go ahead and say it's historical fantasy, or we just call it historical fiction. We make it a romance novel. We put it in a period of New York, and we don't include these. It could be Bridgerton set in New York. Like, why not that? We could do that. But then you give us this character who doesn't know who she is, who adamantly believes she's not the person everyone thinks she is, and so you're not sure if she's crazy, or you're not sure if there's something supernatural or fantastical going on. And it feels a little discordant for me at times. That's just my thoughts. That was really kind of, I guess, a lot of what I came here to say. Someone else mentioned they felt like something was missing, and I just want to kind of bring that up because I kind of made that note. I made that little flag for me to remember. And I agree, but I think that's where in the beginning especially, or more towards that beginning of the story, we could have used more magic. I love Irish mythology. I would love to know more about Irish mythology. I feel like we don't delve into it and maybe don't hear enough about it like we do Greek or Roman or some of the others, maybe even Egyptian. And now we're getting more related to Norse and Viking mythology. Irish mythology is a little bit hit or miss. I think one of my favorite series with regards to some Irish mythology is the Kevin Hearn, I think it's the Iron Druid series. That's what it is. The series is Iron Druid, and the first book of that, I believe, is Hounded. But that one does do well. Now, that's an urban fantasy, which I do enjoy as well. But it does hit on a lot of what I would call as Irish or Druidic mythology. So seeing it in this manner is not bad, but I think it could have been a little better done. Maybe we could have had some interlude chapters that told us an Irish myth, something that would weave it together for us in between. Like maybe we have the chapters where Rua is figuring things out in New York in this new body and this new life. But maybe we have like interlude chapters where we are telling some sort of Irish mythology tale. So that's where I think we could have probably helped keep that intrigue going, maybe keep the pacing up just a little bit more. But we shall see. If this author writes more in the future, well then so be it, and I will probably see how they progress as a writer. I do enjoy giving writers multiple chances to entertain me. I was entertained. And I like when a book's not perfect, but I do feel like we could have done just a little bit more editing to give it a bit more polish. But these are just my thoughts. I'm so sorry if they're not the same as yours, but this is why we come on here, is to just see what people have to say so we can share our own and hopefully have good constructive conversations. I hope you all have a wonderful day. If you have not liked and subscribed already, I certainly hope you will. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining me on this journey. I will see you all on the next page. Have a great one.